Hey, history buffs. In today's immersive journey, we're strapping on the worn boots of a Wehrmacht infantryman trapped in one of the most audacious and brutal campaigns of the entire conflict, the Ardennes offensive. You'll experience the relentless cold seeping through your layers, the distant growl of panzer divisions maneuvering through the fog, and that gnawing dread creeping up your spine as contradictory orders trickle down the chain of command. Before you drift off, hit like and subscribe, but only if unfiltered frontline accounts from the European theater are your cup of ersatz coffee. Drop a comment with your hometown and local time zone. It still blows my mind how these gritty, forgotten narratives keep marching across generations. Now settle in. Let your pulse slow. We're stepping through time's curtain. No grand strategies, just the raw, intimate moments that forged a generation. The air hangs thick with wood smoke, axle grease, and whatever bitter concoction passes for coffee in this frozen hellscape. You're shuffling forward in a snaking line of hollow-eyed men, waiting for rations that might never arrive. The surrounding forest stands unnaturally still, the cold so intense it feels like the trees themselves are holding their breath. Each exhale forms ghostly plumes that linger like steam from a ruptured pipe. Then, an ominous mechanical cough in the middle distance as an engine sputters and dies. That's bad news. That was the ammunition truck. You instinctively tighten your helmet strap, not because it offers real protection, but because it's one of the few things left within your control. The aged leather protests with an audible crack beneath your fingers. Like most of your gear, it's recycled hand-me-downs from some obliterated unit, maybe even from campaigns fought years ago. Someone else's initials are scratched inside your mess kit. This is supposed to be a surprise attack, but you're starting to question who exactly is getting surprised. The skeletal trees seem to know what's coming. They loom like frozen sentinels, their snow-laden branches creaking under the weight like old men bracing for impact. Mid-December 1944. You've been pulled from a relatively quiet sector and transported, violently bounced, in the back of a lurching Opel Blitz through pitch-black roads. They called this operation something grand, something decisive. Some fresh-faced recruits actually clapped like schoolboys when they heard the words, "Walk dem Rhein." You kept your hands at your sides, staring at your crumbling boot soles, mentally calculating how many kilometers they'd last in this frozen wasteland. Spoiler, not many. Your division's been shuffled around like expendable pawns. Now you're deep in the Ardennes. Though if you're honest, you couldn't pinpoint your location on a map if your life depended on it. Place names swirl together. Losheim, Sankt Vith, Bastogne, meaningless syllables in your exhausted mind. The brass says Hitler's ordered a massive westward thrust to split the Allies, take Antwerp, maybe even force negotiated peace. It sounds impressive in the briefing tents. Less so when you're standing in 4 layers of sweat-soaked wool with nothing between you and the elements but a tarp someone looted from a supply depot. You're not alone. Your platoon's a motley crew of grizzled Eastern Front veterans and wide-eyed replacements barely old enough to shave. There's young Hans, still peach-fuzzed but insists he's growing a beard. Every morning he performs this solemn ritual with a dull razor, scraping at invisible stubble like it's some sacred rite. Nobody calls him out. Let the kid have his illusions. Then there's Schaefer, the NCO who never removes his helmet, not even to sleep. Rumor is he survived Kursk. He doesn't talk about it. What he does mention, in those rare moments, is how these woods smell like home. Reminds me of the Thuringian forest back home. He mutters one night, nostrils flaring like a bloodhound catching a scent. You can't tell if he's cracked or knows something you don't. New orders arrive wrapped in urgency and vagueness. Maintain radio silence. Move swiftly. Expect heavy fog. Command insists the Americans aren't expecting an attack here, that their lines are thin, that they'll break. You want to believe it, but something about your lieutenant's expression, those darting eyes, that faint green tinge around his collar, tells you this is wishful thinking, not military intelligence. You check your rifle for the 3rd time. The bolt drags slightly. It's still gummed up from your last hasty cleaning. It'll fire, probably. Nothing builds confidence like staking your survival on good enough. You tuck the weapon under your arm as the column begins moving. No more trucks from here. You're on foot now. Just you, the endless snow, and the muffled rustle of wool uniforms as dozens of men try desperately to move without sound. Here's what they never tell you about winter offensives. It's not the bullets that break you first. It's the cold. The kind that turns your breath into icicles on your collar. The kind that makes your skin scream, then go numb, then vanish from your awareness entirely, like your body's already given up. You trudge uphill, downhill, through winding forest trails you swear you've marched before. A fox darts between trees, or maybe it's someone's abandoned dog. Nature doesn't care about front lines. It just absorbs the war, digests it into silence. Somewhere in the shuffle, someone starts singing softly, off-key. A lullaby. You vaguely recognize it. Maybe something your mother hummed while stirring cabbage soup. Nobody tells him to stop. There's something comforting about that thin thread of memory winding through the mist. Then, as suddenly as it began, the singing cuts off. The silence returns, heavier than before. Historians still debate whether Hitler truly believed this offensive could succeed, or if it was just a final desperate gamble. From where you're standing, or more accurately, sloshing, it feels like both. Brilliant in theory, human misery in execution. The officers pass around a smudged map. You're supposed to memorize your sector, but it's just squiggles and half-erased landmarks. There's a dot marking your unit, a circle for some objective, a line you mustn't cross. Problem is, there are 5 different versions now, each slightly altered. You'd laugh if your toes had any feeling left. You try not to think about tomorrow, or what happens if you twist an ankle. One guy did last week. They left him at a field hospital near Monshaw. You suspect he's warmer than you are right now. A superstition spreading among the replacements. Something about a lucky tin coin from the last man to survive the Siegfried line. Hans rubs his every morning like a talisman. You don't believe in luck, but you still ask to touch it once. Above you, the snow-laden trees seem to hold their breath. You get the distinct sense these woods have witnessed war before, that they remember. You're called to a briefing by an officer whose collar tabs look suspiciously new and whose voice carries too much enthusiasm for your taste. Inside the sagging canvas tent, the air's thick with pipe smoke and stale sweat. There's a strange energy, not quite confidence, not quite fear, more like determined denial wearing a brave face. Maps cover the central table, most creased and smeared with muddy fingerprints. Something resembling coffee circulates in dented tin cups. You cradle yours for warmth rather than taste. It smells like charred wood and medicine. Maybe it's brewed from acorns again, or pine bark. Doesn't matter. You sip it anyway. The briefing officer starts speaking. You try to focus, but the words blur together. Divisional thrusts, pincer maneuvers, spearheads, schwerpunkt. It's all the vocabulary of victory, layered over terrain you've never seen and villages you can't pronounce. Occasionally a name sticks: Bastogne, Malmedy, Stavelot. You repeat them silently like incantations, hoping they'll mean something when it counts. Then comes the revelation, the part that makes your spine stiffen and stomach clench. The plan isn't just bold, it's borderline suicidal. Your unit's part of the 6th Panzer Army. Yes, that Panzer Army, the one that once blitzkrieged across France. You're to punch through the Ardennes, drive west, cross the Meuse, then sprint for Antwerp. Fast, relentless. Surprise is your greatest weapon. And here's the catch. You're supposed to accomplish this with dwindling fuel reserves, minimal support, during the worst winter Belgium's seen in decades. The maps don't show that part. You glance at the soldier beside you. He raises an eyebrow, half smirking like he's trying to decide if this is genius or madness. You're wondering the same. A Feldwebel mutters, and when we reach the Meuse, the officer dodges like he's dancing on hot coals. We'll be reinforced. The Führer has plans. Of course he does. Historians still argue whether Hitler's staff truly believed these phantom reinforcements existed or simply didn't dare question them. From your vantage point, it feels like everyone's pretending there's some secret depot just over the next ridge, stocked with fuel, rations, and better weather. The officer continues. There's a special operation underway, Operation Greif. German commandos in American uniforms will sow chaos behind enemy lines, blowing bridges, misdirecting convoys, spreading panic. You're warned not to speak English, lest you be mistaken for one of them. The room gives a nervous chuckle when someone asks how Americans are supposed to react seeing German troops wearing their uniforms. With panic, the officer deadpans. He's deadly serious. You're briefed on recognition signals, special armbands, code words, prearranged gestures. You scribble them in your field manual's margin, but the pencil lead snaps mid-sentence. You don't bother sharpening it. The whole scheme feels theatrical, like some cheap spy novel plot. But the frost gnawing at your sleeves reminds you this is terrifyingly real. There's nothing cinematic about trench foot. As the meeting dissolves, you step outside and exhale a lungful of vapor into the twilight. The sky's a bruised purple, the kind that promises more snow whether you want it or not. You tug your coat tighter and notice, not for the first time, the lining's unraveling at the armpits. Nearby, a cluster of soldiers pass around what looks like schnapps near a crate. You join them, less for the alcohol than the human warmth. Someone's carved the ace of spades into his rifle stock, calls it his lucky charm, then adds with a shrug, luck lasts about as long as breakfast rations out here. You nod. Everyone has their talismans, socks from home, faded photographs, tarnished iron crosses tucked in breast pockets. Yours is a crumpled note from your sister, signed with a lipstick kiss. The ink's barely legible now, the paper stained with oil and folded too many times. But it's the last time someone told you, be careful, and actually meant it. A mechanic curses in thick Bavarian as he wrestles with a frozen Kubelwagen's engine. The motor coughs, wheezes, then falls silent again. Someone claps sarcastically. A joke about German engineering draws strained laughter. Gallows humor's the only currency left. One of the veterans launches into a story about how Guderian once made a tank crew disassemble their radio in the rain for improper use. Whether it's true or not, you welcome the distraction. Frostbite can wait. A courier trudges past with a dispatch bag slung over his shoulder. His boots are wrapped in rags, standard issue now. You wonder if he's carrying new orders or just recycling old ones for morale. The sky darkens as you inspect your gear again. Bayonet, rusted but sharp. Ammo, 3 clips short. Rations, hardtack, questionable sausage, and something that might have been cheese in another life. Maybe. You bed down in a shallow foxhole that's more wishful thinking than fortification, reinforced with pine boughs and desperation. Your breath fogs the scarf pulled over your nose. Occasionally the wind shifts, carrying whiffs of distant fires, field kitchens maybe, or more likely something burning that shouldn't be. That night, before exhaustion drags you under, you hear boots crunching nearby. A patrol perhaps. You don't challenge them. Just listen. The sounds fade into the forest like ghosts returning to the trees. Somewhere in the cold, someone coughs. Someone prays. Someone hums the first line of Lily Marlene. And someone, maybe you, stares up at the cloud-choked sky wondering if any of this will be remembered after the snow melts. Dawn arrives with the asthmatic sputter of a reluctant engine, like it's apologizing for existing. You emerge from your frozen cocoon, blinking against the gray light filtering through snow-laden branches. The overnight snow has developed a brittle crust that crackles ominously underfoot, loud enough to betray your position if anyone's watching. But no one is. Everyone's too busy trying to regain feeling in their fingers. Today you're riding with the armor. Not the glorious Panzer commander's fantasy, but the grimy reality, clambering onto a Panzer IV's rear deck. Its paint's chipped, the side skirts dangling by a single bolt. There's still a dent in the turret from some skirmish near Normandy. No one bothered repairing it. Apparently dents don't slow shells. You haul yourself up using the frozen handholds, nearly slipping on an iced-over coffee stain where someone's breakfast spilled and froze mid-splash last night. The metal's so cold it burns through your gloves. You wedge between a spare track link and the exhaust vent, trying not to look as miserable as you feel. Schaefer's already there, statue still with folded arms. You wonder if the man ever sleeps. The engine roars to life, vibrating through your bones. Someone shouts over the din. If the fuel holds, we'll reach the front by noon. That's a monumental if. Supplies are stretched thinner than butter on army bread. Fuel drums are guarded like Reichsbank gold now. Rumor has it someone siphoned gas from a staff car just to keep their half-track moving. The thief disappeared shortly after. Historians still debate whether fuel shortages or terrain hampered the offensive more. But from your perch, it's the endless stop-start rhythm that's murdering morale. You tap your chest, feeling for your lucky charm. A wool sock repurposed as a tobacco pouch. You haven't smoked in days. Doesn't matter. The ritual's what counts. Some men wear crucifixes. Others stitch charms into their uniforms. You just touch that sock and pretend it works. The convoy lurches forward, then stops, then lurches again. You're stuck behind a truck loaded with mortar shells while three idiots try pushing a motorcycle out of a snowdrift. The air reeks of diesel and despair. A horse-drawn cart clatters alongside, the mules snorting steam like a miniature locomotive. You can't decide what's more surreal, German tanks in a surprise offensive, or the fact that your panzer's currently stuck behind livestock. Rudy, the company clerk's assistant, mutters calculations under his breath: range, velocity, trajectory. An engineering student before the war, he treats ballistics like love poetry. You try ignoring him until he suddenly stops and whispers, "If it rains, these forest roads will become rivers." You nod. Mud's as deadly as bullets when your treads can't grip. A Panther commander tried using fir branches for traction last week. Worked for about 10 meters before the tank sank like a stone, requiring 24 hours of frantic digging while Allied planes circled overhead. Another quarter mile, and everything halts again. The problem? A farmer's cart loaded with actual cabbages, fresh, crisp, smelling like heaven itself. And the driver refuses to budge, claiming he's under orders to wait. The ensuing shouting match becomes legend. A captain nearly ruptures his vocal cords yelling at a Luxembourgish peasant who keeps insisting his instructions came from a man with a big coat. You laugh despite yourself. The absurdity stacks up like firewood. Behind you, a soldier starts singing Lily Marlene with deliberate irony. Someone groans, "Not this again." But no one stops him. It's practically the anthem of things going catastrophically wrong. After another hour of herky-jerky progress, your tank finally reaches a clearing. The sudden quiet rings in your ears. Not peaceful quiet, the kind that suggests the enemy's either long gone or watching from just beyond the tree-line. You dismount, stretch legs gone numb, and drink water that tastes like rusty pipes. Better than nothing. There's a fleeting moment when sunlight breaks through the clouds, setting the frost-covered branches ablaze. The entire forest glitters like glass. Even Schaefer pauses to look. For one heartbeat, it's beautiful. Then some klutz trips on a root and face-plants into the snow, shattering the moment like a dropped mess tin. Orders come to sweep the area while the engines cool. Your boots crunch over frozen leaves, every sound amplified. A jaybird flits past, and you nearly raise your rifle. That's how wired your nerves are. While scanning the tree line, you spot something odd half buried in the snow, an American chocolate wrapper. Still crisp. Dropped recently. You pass it around like contraband. Rudy pockets it, mumbling about Yankee sugar being superior. No one argues. Schaefer kneels, studying the tracks. Boot prints slightly larger than German issue. Headed west. Someone asks, "Do we follow?" Your sergeant shrugs. They're already gone. Maybe. Or maybe they're waiting for you to take the bait. You decide not to find out. Back at the convoy, mechanics hammer on frozen fuel lines. One tank's bleeding coolant from a cracked radiator, steam rising like a distress signal. A mechanic tries patching it with chewing gum and prayer. Neither sticks. A runner arrives with updated orders. The offensive's been delayed. Mechanical difficulties, they claim. You survey the chaos. Tanks stuck in ditches, motorcycles buried in snowdrifts, an entire company waiting on a mule cart. And think, that's one way to put it. Historians still debate whether these early delays doomed the offensive before it began. The roads were supposed to be clear. The weather was supposed to cooperate. The Americans were supposed to be asleep. So far, only the weather's keeping its promises. You spend the night in a barn, wedged between hay bales and the still warm engine block of a truck that's given up the ghost. You wrap your scarf around your ears and try not to dream of warmth, because waking from that dream makes the cold cut deeper. Rudy falls asleep mid-equation, still mumbling numbers. Schaefer sits against a beam, polishing a belt buckle that hasn't seen inspection in months. You trace the wood grain with a gloved finger, wondering how long this barn stood here and whether it'll survive the war. Your last thought before sleep claims you is almost comically mundane. You never did get any of those cabbages. The fog slithers in before dawn, not the picturesque kind that hovers over valleys, but a thick, soupy mist that coils around your boots and climbs your legs like a starving alley cat. You squint through the haze, trying to spot the man marching ahead, but he's already dissolved into the gray. The only sounds are the rhythmic crunch of snow, the occasional grunt when someone slips, and the ever-present metallic squeal of tank treads somewhere behind you. Always just behind. It's pre-dawn twilight. You're part of the spearhead now, advancing under cover of weather so dense it feels custom-made for this madness. Someone joked last night that not even God could see what's coming. You didn't laugh, just chewed your rock-hard bread and stared at the firewood you couldn't light. Orders came down clear enough. Cross into enemy territory before sunrise. Hit fast. Hit hard. You'll know the objective when you see it. Classic military clarity. You're attached to Kampfgruppe Paper now, one of the more aggressive armored units in this frozen carnival. The name paper gets tossed around with equal parts reverence and dread. Young SS hotshot known for being bold, ruthless, and unsettlingly baby-faced. You're just thankful you're regular Wehrmacht, not SS. Keep your head down, your rifle dry. Your breath rasps against the scarf covering your mouth. Not for warmth anymore, just to filter out the stench of wet wool and diesel fumes clinging to your sinuses. The road beneath your boots is frozen solid. Good news for the tanks, but if the temperature rises even slightly, it'll turn to sludge that swallows anything heavier than a bicycle. You pass the first border marker just as the sun pretends to rise. A crooked wooden post with a faded sign someone defaced long ago. Probably American GIs feeling cheeky. You tap it with your boot like you're crossing into some alternate reality. In a way, you are. And just like that, you're behind enemy lines. The squad fans out, dissolving into the trees like smoke. Stick to the plan, advance in formation. Stay quiet. Only fire if fired upon. Sounds reasonable on paper, but the forest thrums with false alarms. Every snapped twig makes you freeze. Every snow-laden branch that falls sends 3 rifles swinging toward imagined threats. Someone hisses, just a tree. The adrenaline doesn't dissipate so easily. There's movement ahead, whispers, and a flicker of color. You raise your scope, heart hammering, only to spot figures in American coats. Too far to identify. Your first instinct is to dive. Your second is panic. Are they Americans? Germans in disguise? Americans who think you're Germans in disguise. Welcome to Operation Greif, where everything's a lethal guessing game. One gives a thumbs up and vanishes into the fog. You exhale. Barely. Historians still debate how effective these disguised units really were. Some claim they caused mass confusion, rerouted entire convoys. Others say it was mostly psychological. Paranoia doing more damage than actual sabotage. From your foxhole view, it's just another layer of chaos draped over a mission already drowning in frost and wishful thinking. You push forward. Every tree looks identical. Every ditch could hide a mine. Someone 2 rows back slips and curses at full volume. The entire platoon winces, then freezes. No response, just more snowflakes. At one point you pass an abandoned foxhole, still warm. The snow around the rim has melted into slush. There's an indentation where a helmet rested. And in the center, a cigarette still smoldering. American brand. The scent is almost luxurious. One of your men fishes it out and smokes it down to the filter in 3 drags. No judgment. Soon after, you reach the road. This is where things get real. Roads mean visibility. Visibility means death. Still, it's the fastest route to wherever the hell you're supposed to be. Assuming the map's accurate, it's not. The officer makes the hand signal, flank around. No engagement. Not yet. You melt back into the trees, tracing a wide arc. The snow's quieter here, oddly muted. Different terrain, marshy beneath the surface. Each step threatens to plunge you into icy slurry. The man ahead suddenly sinks to his waist in hidden slush. He flails silently. Two of you haul him out. He's soaked. They'll send him back if medical even exists anymore. You reach the far side of the road and pause to regroup. The sun's officially up, though you wouldn't know it. Everything's bathed in winter's eerie half-light, the kind that turns branches into rifle barrels and shadows into warnings. A buzz cuts through the silence. Distant engines. Low-flying planes. You duck, but it's gone before you spot it. Recon maybe, or nothing. You realize you've been clenching your jaw for hours. Trying to relax, it feels like prying open a rusted vise. The land starts sloping downward into a shallow valley where the trees thin and the snow deepens. Each step becomes a calculation. Your boots sink deeper with every yard. You feel the snow conspiring to trip you, like it's tired of being trampled. Then finally, your objective. A Belgian village half hidden by fog and chimney smoke. Stone houses hunched against the hillside. Windows shuttered. Roofs sagging under winter's weight. One chimney exhales a thin gray breath, like it's trying not to be noticed. You all move carefully, trying not to look like invaders. Your boots cross what might have been a main road once. Now just a snow-choked path littered with tracks from retreating farmers and, more recently, armored treads. The platoon fans out, rifles ready but not raised. No one wants to be the first to break the silence. The entire village seems to hold its breath, unsure whether you're liberators, looters, or just another storm passing through. The first house on the right isn't locked. The door groans open with theatrical reluctance. Inside, it's warmer than expected. Someone left recently. The scent of potatoes lingers. Not just raw ones either. Cooked. Maybe hours ago. You freeze in the doorway, listening. Nothing. Then Schaefer appears beside you, nods at the stove. They left in a hurry. There's a pot still on the burner. 3 small boiled potatoes float in greasy water. A fork rests on the table beside a half-eaten bread slice. Across from it lies an open diary, the ink not yet faded. You glance at the elegant handwriting, not German. French maybe, or Flemish. You don't try translating. There's something violating about reading a stranger's interrupted thoughts, especially when they might return any minute. Or not at all. You leave the diary untouched. Some lines shouldn't be crossed. Historians still debate how many civilians got caught between lines during the Bulge. How many fled? How many stayed? How many simply vanished into the winter? In this village, the answer feels like all 3. House by house, each tells the same story, hasty abandonment. Some left orderly, others clearly mid-meal. A child's stuffed donkey, missing one button eye, lies on a bedroom floor. Another home has someone trying to lock the pantry from the inside, as if safeguarding rations from ghosts. But what lingers isn't the absence of people, it's the absence of life itself. No dogs, no chickens, no church bells. Just your footsteps and the occasional groan of timber settling into the cold. The signal comes to rest. The squad splits between 3 houses, pooling warmth. You claim a corner that smells of wood polish and boiled cabbage. A photograph still hangs above the stove. An elderly couple and a gap-toothed girl frozen mid-laugh. You stare at it too long. Outside, someone finds a working radio. It crackles to life with bursts of static and impossibly American jazz. Bright, swinging, utterly out of place. Someone laughs until another hisses to kill it. Too risky. The music dies mid-note. Rudy pries open a locked drawer, old papers, a silver pocket watch, and a pack of American cigarettes. You each take one, lighting up like it's some sacred ritual. The tobacco's sweeter, smoother than German rations. It fills your lungs with warmth that has nothing to do with combustion. Someone produces a bottle of schnapps. It passes around sparingly, not from discipline, but because this borrowed comfort won't last. These almost normal moments are the most dangerous. They trick you into forgetting what this really is. Night falls. Snow returns, thick, lazy flakes rewriting the landscape. You take watch by a broken window, the cracked glass catching moonlight. Your breath fogs the air in slow pulses. You watch the tree lean, the road, the rooftops. Nothing moves. Not yet. Somewhere down the valley, artillery rumbles. Not close. Not far. Just a reminder. You glance at your rifle leaning against the wall and wonder if it'll fire when needed. Your hands are numb, but you don't dare remove your gloves. Schaefer joins you wordlessly, offering bread crust. You chew in silence. "This house," he suddenly says, "reminds me of my aunt's place. Same wallpaper." You nod. War has a way of collapsing geography. One village bleeds into the next until every house becomes every house you've ever known. Later, just before watch rotation, you hear it. Footsteps crunching snow. You signal Schaefer. He hears it too. You both crouch, weapons ready. The steps stop. You wait. 10 seconds. 20. Nothing. Schaefer shrugs. Animal maybe. You lower your rifle reluctantly. But you don't forget that sound. Too heavy for deer. Too deliberate. Inside, the others pretend to sleep. Someone snores. Someone murmurs a name, a wife? A sister? A dead friend? You curl into your coat on someone else's rug, staring at ceiling beams that have stood for centuries and now shelter strangers who may not see morning. You try conjuring your childhood kitchen, the warmth, the smell of onions caramelizing, the way afternoon light gilded the table. But the memory won't come. Only this, the forest, the snow, this nameless village holding its breath. At first, you mistake the low rumble for thunder, but thunder doesn't come in measured intervals, doesn't echo through the trees with such mechanical precision. It's artillery, American artillery, and it's waking up. You're crouched behind a stone fence at the village's edge, watching the eastern sky pulse with angry flashes. Each boom is followed by a pause, then another, not random, but methodical, like someone knocking at the gates of hell with a sledgehammer. Orders come fast. You scramble into formation, pack bouncing against your back, rifle slung across your chest. The village, briefly still and almost human again, now crackles with movement. Boots stomping snow, gear rattling, commands whispered down the line like wind through a canyon. You're heading uphill toward the ridge they call Elsenborn. The name sounds like something from a fairy tale until you see the terrain. Thick pines, frozen clearings, jagged undergrowth, steep slopes. And at the top, American guns. Lots of them. The mission? Take the ridge. Secure the high ground. Push them back. Simple. Except the Americans aren't giving it up. Not even close. As you advance, the shells find you. You hear them before you feel them. Distant whistles, then cracks that rattle your ribs. One lands too close. You dive behind a snow-covered boulder, ice and dirt raining down on your helmet like shrapnel. Your ears ring. Your stomach lurches. But you're still here. The second shell overshoots. The third corrects, closer. They're walking the fire toward you, adjusting with terrifying precision. You surge forward between salvos, hugging every dip in the earth like it's your last embrace. The others do the same. No one shouts anymore. Everyone just moves. Instinct takes over. You stop being a person and become terrain that refuses to disappear. The rifleman beside you trips over a root, face plants into the snow. You yank him up. He doesn't thank you, just nods, eyes glassy. Probably didn't even see your face. When you finally reach the tree line near the ridge's base, you pause, panting. Steam pours from your mouth like a dragon that's run out of fire. You peer around a trunk and see what you're up against. Barbed wire, sandbags, machine gun nests dug into the slope. And those guns, those infernal American 105s, still firing. They're not aimed at you now, but you can feel their rhythm, a heartbeat beneath your boots. Historians argue whether Elsenborn Ridge was the offensive's true breaking point. Some say Bastogne. Others blame the fuel shortages. But ask anyone who tried taking this slope. They'll tell you. This is where the momentum cracked. Your sergeant waves the squad left, flanking around. You move low, avoiding the exposed hillside. The forest is denser here, but it doesn't stop shrapnel. Trees are scarred with blast marks, some split clean in half, like they personally offended the sky. You hear shouts in English, then gunfire, sharp cracks, distinct from your own rifles. You drop to a knee, scanning. There, American troops moving in staggered lines, disciplined, fast. No panic in their eyes. Just focus. You return fire. It's automatic now. Squeeze. Pause. Adjust. Squeeze again. Your rifle kicks against your shoulder, the stock cold against your cheek. You probably hit nothing. Doesn't matter. What matters is keeping them pinned while your squad circles. Then, an explosion behind you. Someone stepped on a mine. Not one of the big ones, but enough to knock a man down. He screams once, then bites into his coat. You don't look. Just keep moving. You reach a fallen tree, charred and blackened. Smoke curls from the stump. Someone's cooking nearby. You almost laugh until you realize it's not food. It's equipment. Burned out ammo crates. Maybe a jeep. The Americans scorched their own trail to keep you from using it. You press forward, circling behind one of the nests. The squad stacks up, ready to breach. 3 men back, close enough to help, far enough to run if this goes wrong. The sergeant signals. 3 fingers. 2. 1. You surge forward. Chaos. Someone lobs a grenade. A shout, runter, and you dive. The explosion is sharp, quick. Dust and snow swirl as you scramble to your knees. The nest is empty. They pulled back too fast. You don't celebrate. Don't relax. Because if they retreated, it means they're waiting farther up. They want you to climb higher. So you do. By the time you're halfway up the ridge, your legs are lead. Every breath burns. Your rifle slick with condensation, gloves damp, socks soaked. You reach for your canteen, frozen shut. Then the machine gun opens up. It's well placed, clever. You hit the dirt again, but not before the man beside you drops. He doesn't get up. You crawl forward on elbows and knees, fingers numb. You press your face into the snow and pretend you're invisible. Schaefer appears beside you, dragging himself forward, rifle across his back. He says nothing, just nods, like this is Tuesday. The gunfire shifts, another squad drawing its attention. You seize the chance. Crawl, creep, move. You reach the edge of a trench. American, fresh, still warm. There's a coffee cup on the edge. Real coffee, still steaming. Its owner probably ran 30 seconds ago. You take a sip. Hot, bitter, perfect. Then the order comes, fall back. You blink. You just got here. But it's not optional. Radios scream. New artillery incoming. Closer, heavier. You've been spotted. The ridge won't fall today. You turn. You run. Back through the trees, past the scorched logs and the frozen corpses of fallen trees. You don't look up. Don't look behind. Just run. You reach the lower slope just as the shells land. Snow erupts in geysers. Someone grabs your sleeve, pulls you behind a rock. You don't see who. Just crouch there, heart hammering, face stinging from wind and fear. When it stops, you peek out. The ridge still stands. Silent. Ominous. And above it, the American flag flutters, motionless in the frozen air. You're back in the woods, but the silence feels different now. Not peaceful, resigned. You're tired in a way that isn't physical anymore. The kind of exhaustion that seeps into your thoughts and makes your rifle feel twice as heavy. The squad moves slower, less coordinated. No one says it, but you all know. The ridge held. You didn't take it. New orders come. Not better, not clearer, just different. Head west. Link up with a column pushing toward the bridge. No one specifies which bridge. Just the bridge. That mythical structure always standing between you and victory. Always either still intact or just about to be blown. You don't bother memorizing the coordinates. You let the man in front do the thinking. You just walk until your feet start aching in that dull, permanent way. One boot leaks. Your right sock has slipped halfway down your heel. You try adjusting it during a pause, but your fingers are too stiff to work the laces. So you shove your foot back in and limp forward like that's just how life is now. At some point, someone mutters that the Americans blew the bridge at Troisponts. Or was it Stavelot? The names blur. You don't know if it's true. Could be. Bridges are going up and smoke all over. One of the guys jokes, maybe we should build our own. No one laughs. You reach a clearing's edge and are told to hold while scouts go ahead. The ground here is muddy, not snow, actual mud. Brown, wet, unforgiving. One tank is bogged down, listing like a wounded animal, its treads spinning uselessly as the engine roars in protest. The crewman sits on the turret, smoking with tired eyes, watching his panzer dig its own grave. The sergeant pulls you aside. You're with the engineers. You blink. I'm not an engineer. Today you are. You don't argue. You join a team hauling wooden planks, metal rods, spools of wire, like they're setting up a county fair rather than prepping a river crossing. Their boots are caked in mud, coats soaked through, but they work with the mechanical efficiency of men who've stopped hoping for easier days. The bridge site reveals the joke. 2 charred stumps on either bank, some twisted rebar, a stretch of dark, fast-moving water daring you to cross. The Americans did thorough work. You're told to help string guide wires for a footbridge. It's laughable, really. You know it. Everyone knows it. But it's a gesture, a statement that the offensive must continue, even if it's one plank at a time. You hold the cable while 2 others hammer stakes into frozen earth. Every strike vibrates up your arms. The metal sings against the cold. Your hands shake, partly from weather, partly from fatigue. Nearby, another group tries inflating a rubber raft. It keeps deflating. One man swears the valve is cursed. Another suggests prayer. Neither works. Then the shelling starts again. Not here, downriver. That low, distant thunder. You freeze, listening. Harassment fire? Do they know you're here? You duck instinctively, though nothing's falling yet. You think of Remagen, the stories you've heard, how entire campaigns turned on a handful of bridge supports and one slow demolition crew. Historians argue which bridges truly mattered in this battle. But kneeling here, shin deep in icy mud and hopeless optimism, you understand why they're everything. Without a bridge, you're stuck. And stuck is just a fancy word for waiting to be shelled. Eventually, a makeshift line is rigged. Not much, just enough for a few men at a time, if the current doesn't take them. You're not in the first group. You watch as they tighten gear, step onto wobbling planks barely wider than a boot. You hold your breath the entire crossing. They make it. One man slips near the far side, plunges waist deep before being hauled up by his collar. He grins as he stands, frost coating his smile. You almost smile back. Your turn comes 2 crossings later. You shoulder your pack, step onto the first plank, trying to walk like your legs aren't jelly. The water below rushes past like it's late for an appointment. You stare straight ahead, not down, not at the gaps between boards, not at the swaying rope that's all that stands between you and the current. Midway you pause, just long enough to hear a distant shout. An engine, then machine gun fire. Contact, someone yells from the far bank. You don't think. You run as much as one can run across a plank bridge. You hit the other side and dive behind crates as bullets snap through trees. American patrol, recon maybe, or just a unit that got lost like you did yesterday. Either way, they're shooting now. You and the others return fire from the riverbank. Orders come fast. Hold position. You lift your rifle. Scan. Shoot. Mud kicks up around you as rounds impact. Someone yells, "Grenade," but it falls short, spraying rocks and adrenaline. 10 minutes that feel like an hour. Then silence. You peek up. The firing stopped. The forest is still. The Americans are gone, or waiting. You don't chase. You just breathe. The bridge, somehow, is still intact. Your nerves less so. Later, the engineer commander gives a crooked smile. "Bridge works," he says, like it's an inside joke you're all too cold to laugh at. You continue west. Another village. Another ridge. Another objective on a map no one trusts anymore. You check your rifle, your pack, the sock tobacco pouch in your pocket. All still there. You march quietly as the sun sets behind the trees, casting long shadows across another road you'll walk down and maybe never return from. You don't ask where the next bridge is. You just pray it's still standing when you get there. It's Christmas Eve. At least that's what the calendar claims. You haven't seen a calendar in weeks, but someone mentioned it during roll call, and the words spread like warmth in frozen hands. Suddenly, the men grow quieter. Not from fear, something softer. Like they're all remembering the same thing at once. You don't feel festive. There's no tree, no songs, no fire. Just frozen breath and aching legs, and the distant thump of artillery echoing off the hills like unwanted carolers. You try conjuring church bells or children's laughter, but all you get is whine through pine needles and the occasional cough from a nearby foxhole. You're dug in outside another nameless Belgian hamlet. Half the buildings are rubble. The other half are frozen shut. You share your position with Rudy, who's taken to muttering multiplication tables under his breath. Keeps the mind sharp, he claims. You wonder if that's true or if he just doesn't want to hear the silence anymore. The afternoon passes with futile attempts to improve your cover, stacking frozen logs, adding fir branches to the walls, patching wind holes with scraps of canvas. It helps a little until nightfall when the temperature plummets again. You pull your scarf over your mouth, recycling your own breath for warmth. The snow glows faintly under moonlight. It would be beautiful if you weren't buried in it up to your thighs, clutching a rifle that keeps freezing shut. Down the line, someone hums a few bars of Silent Night, then stops abruptly, like he caught himself being human. But the melody lingers. You find yourself humming it too, quietly, without realizing. Then Schaefer appears, handing out something wrapped in paper. Not standard rations, a chocolate bar. Real chocolate, probably from a captured American crate. It's slightly melted and refrozen, but you eat it in slow, reverent bites. It tastes like childhood. No one says, "Merry Christmas." It would feel too strange. Instead, men share cigarettes. Someone produces a flask. You sip gratefully. The liquid burns, but stays warm longer than expected. For a moment, you all lean back in your trenches, staring at the stars like boys who never learned the word artillery. You think of home, your mother's bread dough rising by the stove, candles in the window, your sister hanging paper stars from the rafters with thread. You wonder if they're doing that now, or if the war has stolen even that. You hope not. Rudy breaks the silence. What do you think they're doing? He means the Americans. You shrug. Probably this. Chocolate. Remembering. He nods. I hope they're cold too. You smirk. Merry Christmas, Rudy. Historians debate whether the famous Christmas truces of earlier wars happened here. Some claim there were moments, shared carols, even a joint burial. Others insist this war had hardened both sides beyond such gestures. From your foxhole, there's no truce, just pauses between shellings. Yet something about the night feels different. The fighting today was lighter, not gone, just less desperate. Maybe no one wanted to die on Christmas Eve. Maybe the cold made killing too difficult. Your unit barely moved today. The plan was to advance through the valley, but recon reported blocked roads and signs of an ambush. So now you're here, staring at a village that smells of ash and snow, listening to a corporal explain the fifth delay this week. The offensive was supposed to reach the Meuse days ago. Now it's stalled, bleeding momentum like a leaking radiator. Every road cleared seems to collapse behind you. And the Americans, they're adapting. You've seen it. Their trenches are deeper, their armor responds faster. There's less panic in their eyes now, more calculation. They know the terrain. They know you're running out of time. You try not to dwell on it. Not tonight. Instead, you pull out your notebook. You haven't written in days. The pencil's blunt, the paper damp, but you press on. December 24th. Still cold. Still waiting. Shared chocolate today. Real chocolate. Reminded me of Selma's bakery. Everything reminds me of home now. The stars are out. Rudy says that means good luck. I say it means we're visible. Either way, we're still here. You tuck the notebook away. It's risky carrying personal items, but you can't surrender everything. From your position, you can see the spire of a ruined church through the trees. Cracked, bell missing, but still standing. That seems important somehow. A symbol of something refusing to fall. A patrol returns late, stomping snow from their boots. They found nothing, just empty fields, churned roads, scattered shell casings. The tension eases slightly. At least tonight, no firefight. You lean back, rifle across your lap, scarf pulled up to your eyes. The wind whistles low and lonely across the hills. Then, something unexpected. Laughter. Not from your squad, not from behind the lines. Faint, carried by the wind. You freeze, listening. A shout. Another voice. You can't tell the language, but it doesn't sound angry. Rudy leans over. You hear that. You nod. Americans. Are they singing? You both strain your ears. Yes, soft, distant, almost lost in the wind. A Christmas hymn, their version of Silent Night. Maybe. You stare across no man's land, that expanse of snow and shadow where voices carry but bodies don't. You imagine them in their own foxholes, passing chocolate, telling lies about home, pretending their boots are dry. And for one impossible moment, the war folds in on itself. You're just boys on either side of a frozen line, wondering what the point of it all is. You don't mention it the next day. Some things you keep for yourself. The fog swallows you whole this time. Not the usual mist that wraps around you like a blanket. This is thicker, heavier, like it's been steeping in gunpowder and smoke. Visibility drops to a few meters. And that would be fine if you weren't lost. Not just a few steps off the trail lost. Proper lost. No idea which way is north, who's in charge, or if the men you're marching with are even from your original unit. That kind of lost. It happened gradually. First came the orders, mumbled, vague. Advance toward the tree line. Swing left if engaged. Fall back if separated. Standard ambiguity. Then the artillery started, louder, closer, more erratic than before. American shells dropping somewhere behind, somewhere ahead, then suddenly too close. The group scattered. Not panic, just instinctive dives for whatever cover existed. You hit the ground behind a half-fallen pine, face in the snow, ears ringing. When it stopped, you stood up. They were gone. No shouts of regroup here. No whistles. Just absence, like they'd been plucked from existence. Now it's just you. Maybe. You hear movement sometimes. Crunching snow, muffled voices, a cough. Could be friendlies. Could be Americans. Could be the forest playing tricks. The fog does that. You move carefully, one deliberate step at a time. The snow squeaks underfoot, the sound absurdly loud in the silence. Every few minutes you stop, listen, squint into the white void. Nothing. Then onward. Eventually, a shape emerges. A silhouette, hunched, moving cautiously between trees. You freeze. So does he. You stare at each other, two shadows in the mist. Then he raises a hand. Not a weapon, just a hand. You hesitate. He steps forward. German helmet, Wehrmacht coat, rifle slung low. Not a threat. Schneider, he says. You give your name. He glances around. You too. You nod. No orders. No squad. Just fog. He grunts. Let's move. You fall into step together. Two ghosts in a white world where directions stopped matching. You don't talk much. Every word feels too loud. After half an hour, you find more. 3 men huddled around a map. They look up, rifles ready, then relax at the sight of your uniforms. Anyone know where we are? One asks. Silence. Another points vaguely west. We passed that barn with red shutters 2 hours ago. No, counters a third. That was yesterday. They argue quietly over landmarks, a crooked pine, a frozen stream, a cow that ran from them. Finally, someone voices what you're all thinking. We're going in circles. You find a depression in the ground and agree to stop. Not rest, just pause. The fog hasn't lifted. If anything, it's thicker. Your breath forms little clouds that hover, then vanish. Someone shares a can of condensed milk. It tastes like metal and sugar. You drink straight from the tin. The talk turns to the Americans. They know these woods better. Better boots. I heard they have white camouflage. Yeah? Well, I heard they have hot soup. Quiet laughter, then silence again. Historians still argue whether the Germans' lack of winter whites was a supply failure or proof of how rushed this offensive was. You don't care. You just know your dark green stands out against the snow like a target. Schneider pulls out a compass. The needle spins, then settles. He frowns. North's that way. Didn't we just come from there? You shrug. Forward's as good as any direction now. You keep moving. The forest thins. A ridge appears, low, tree-leaned. From the top, maybe you'll see something. Anything. You climb, slipping more than walking, rifle banging against your thigh. At the crest, you finally get a view. Ruins. A farmhouse, maybe bombed out. Stone walls half standing. Smoke curling from one corner. And movement. Figures. Several. You all drop. Binoculars come out. Americans. A dozen, maybe more. Digging in. Setting up a mortar. One has a radio. Another kicks snow off an ammo crate. You watch for several minutes. Then the question, what now? No orders. No objective. No chain of command. Just 5 lost soldiers on a ridge behind enemy lines in the middle of the war's most chaotic battle. Schneider suggests pulling back, finding friendlies. Another proposes flanking them. Someone mutters about walking into another ambush. The indecision hangs like smoke. Then a sound behind you. A twig snaps. You all spin, rifles up. A figure emerges, small, thin, unarmed. Not a soldier. A boy, maybe 15. Civilian clothes. Hands shaking. Bit, he says. Ich have nichts. You lower your rifle. He's trembling, eyes wide. Someone offers bread. He takes it without blinking. You ask about roads, German positions. He points uncertainly east, then runs. You let him go. The moment breaks the spell. No attack. No heroics. You turn back into the fog, leaving the Americans to their trench and the boy to his ghost town. You head east, or what you hope is east. The group dissolves slowly. One man follows a sound he swears is German armor. Another traces a downed telephone line. Eventually, it's just you again. Just you, your rifle, and the forest that forgot what maps are. You stop at a fallen log. Sit. Breathe. Not scared, just tired. Too tired to panic. Too tired to care whether the front line is 50 meters away or 50 kilometers. You pull out your notebook. The pencil's blunt, but you press on. December 26th. Lost the others again. Fog everywhere. No shots today. Found Americans. Didn't fire. Don't know why. Saw a boy. Still hear his voice. You tuck the book away and sit in silence. Then stand. Walk. Because what else is there? You stumble into the clearing just before dusk. The fog has thinned for the first time all day, revealing a patchwork of broken fences and shattered tree trunks. A no-man's land between you and the unknown. You weren't sure what to expect. Another abandoned barn. Maybe another squad dug into the snow. Certainly not this. A man sits alone on an overturned crate, American uniform, rifle resting across his lap. And he sees you. You both freeze. He's young, too young, late teens at most, with lingering baby fat that makes him look like a child playing soldier. His helmet's tilted back, chin strap loose. You can see his breath in the air. And you're still in your Wehrmacht coat, boots scuffed, rifle slung, hands half raised. Your brain calculates angles, distances, how fast you could dive for cover. But none of that matters because he doesn't move either. His hand stays near his rifle but doesn't lift it. You stare. He stares. Then he nods slightly, as if to say, "Yeah, this is stupid." You nod back. Just like that, the spell breaks. Not violently, just differently. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out a cigarette, lights it, takes a drag, then offers one in your direction. You raise an eyebrow. He tosses it underhand. It lands in the snow between you. You step forward slowly, pick it up, still warm. You fish out your German matches, sit on a stump a few paces away. You don't take your eyes off him. The cigarette lights. You inhale deeply. American tobacco, smoother than what you're used to. Or maybe French, if he traded. You don't ask. He speaks first. Cold, huh? His German is terrible, barely recognizable, but it gets the point across. You nod. Yeah, very. Silence. The wind picks up, rustling branches, sending snow flurries dancing between you. Then he chuckles. I thought Germans were supposed to be scary. You exhale smoke through your nose. I thought Americans were supposed to be everywhere. He shrugs. We're working on it. Another pause. Neither of you knows what to do next. This isn't covered in any field manual. No protocol for 2 enemy soldiers meeting alone in a winter forest with no orders and nothing left to prove. He rubs his hands together, blows into them, then pulls something from his coat. Chocolate. Here, he says, and tosses it like before. You catch it. The wrapper says Hershey's. You peel it open slowly, as if it might explode. It doesn't. It just tastes good. Really good. You chew slowly, watching him. He leans back on the crate, tilting his head toward the sky. You from Berlin? You shake your head. Dresden. He whistles. Pretty city. You smile faintly. Used to be. He nods. Something loosens in your chest. A tension you didn't know you were carrying. You from New York? He laughs. Everyone thinks that. Nah. Ohio. You've heard the name. Sounds like a lake or a bread company. Flat, you ask. Very. Boring. Very. You both laugh quietly, the kind that doesn't break silence but fits inside it. For this moment, you're not a German soldier and he's not an American. You're just two cold young men stuck in the same stupid war, sharing a cigarette and some chocolate, waiting for something, anything, to make sense again. Historians still argue whether moments like this happened often or were rare glimpses of shared humanity. Some say they're exaggerations, war folklore built from wishful memories. Others insist they were real, that they happened more than anyone wanted to admit. You decide not to care. For you, it's happening right now. He finishes his cigarette. You're halfway through yours. Then, as if on cue, a distant gunshot. Not close, not aimed, just a sharp crack that snaps the spell. You both stiffen, look toward the sound. He stands slowly. You do too. He gives you a look. Not afraid, not threatening, just resigned. Got to go, he says. You nod. Stay warm, he adds. You grin. You too. And then he turns, slinging his rifle over his shoulder, walking into the trees like he's been doing it his whole life. You watch him disappear, his silhouette fading, boots crunching snow. Then nothing. You don't move for a long time. Eventually, you sit back down, finish the chocolate. You fold the foil into a tight square and slip it into your pocket. Not as a souvenir, just a reminder that today didn't go how it could have. You look at your rifle leaning against a tree. Still loaded, still functional, but somehow heavier now. You stand, check your bearings, if you can call them that, and start walking in the opposite direction. Not because you were ordered to, not for strategy, just because you can. You march for another hour, skirting forest edges, moving carefully, avoiding invisible lines. A plume of smoke appears in the distance. Could be your unit, could be his. You turn away. Eventually, you find a shallow ditch near some pines and settle in for the night. No fire, no extra food, just one last match, a pencil stub, and half a page in your notebook. You write, December 27th. Met an American today. We shared a smoke. Didn't shoot each other. Not sure who won. You tuck the notebook away and stare up at the trees. Snow begins to fall again, soft, lazy flakes. And somewhere out there, probably not far, a kid from Ohio is writing in his own notebook, wondering if you made it home too. Morning arrives like a dull hammer blow. Light seeps through the trees. The wind stiff and bitter, everything damp with the kind of moisture that soaks into your bones without ever thawing them. You slept in a ditch again. Your coat smells like wet bark and old smoke. You're not sure how long you were out, but the dream you had, of home, of a warm stove, of bread that didn't come from a tin, lingers longer than it should, making waking up worse. You stretch slowly, joints creaking like frozen hinges. Your rifle's cold to the touch, resisting your grip at first, as if it, too, would rather stay buried in pine needles than face another day of this. You brush snow off your back, slap your helmet on, and start walking. Always walking. There's no road here, just deer trails and frozen gullies, and no one to follow but your own instincts. The sun's hidden behind clouds, so you guess the direction. Every footstep crunches slightly out of rhythm because your right boot's heel is splitting. You can feel the cold creeping up through the sole, like water through a crack in a boat. Eventually, voices. You slow, crouch low, listen. German. You exhale carefully. You step toward the sound, and there they are. A small unit huddled in a shallow depression. Maybe 10 men. Pale, dirty, tired. Their machine gun rests on a mound of snow covered with a tarp. They look up when you approach. One of them, an officer with patchy stubble and a pair of chipped binoculars, nods. Straggler, he asks. Got separated after artillery, you say? He waves you over. Plenty of that going around. You settle beside a man eating cold beans from a dented tin. He offers you a spoonful. You take it, chewing slowly. It tastes like metal and regret, but it's warm enough. Right now, that counts as a miracle. The officer gives a status update. We're holding here for now. No clear orders. Half the maps don't match. And the Americans are pushing back harder every day. You glance around. The position isn't great. exposed to the east, shallow cover, nothing but thin trees to the rear. It's the kind of spot you hold when you've got nowhere else to go. You ask about resupply. He laughs. If we see a supply truck, we'll shoot flares just to watch it try. That earns a few tired chuckles. Someone mutters. Last one we saw turned around before the engine cooled. Morale isn't gone, but it's hanging by threads. Still, there's something comforting about being among others again, even if no one knows what they're doing. You take a moment to clean your rifle, working the bolt gently, clearing snow packed into the crevices. It's jamming more often now. The cold metal contracts, sticks. You keep imagining what happens if it fails at the wrong moment. So you clean slowly, carefully, like it's a ritual that might keep you alive. Schaefer's here too. Of course he is. He appears beside you like he never left, nodding once as if he knew you'd end up in the same place eventually. He doesn't ask where you've been. You don't ask about him. He just mutters, "I hear Bastone's still holding." You nod. So's Elsenborn. He doesn't respond, just sits down and starts polishing his belt buckle again. Everyone's preparing for something. No one says what. A scout returns late in the afternoon, breathless. Shermans. Lots of them. Half a kilometer west. The officer curses under his breath. A scramble begins. Positions reinforced. Foxholes deepened. Ammunition counted. You're handed 2 extra clips. One is half empty. You shrug. Better than nothing. You settle into a firing position behind a tree stump, watching the western edge of the clearing. The snow is trampled now, brown in patches where boots and mud have mixed. You rest your rifle across a frozen route and stare down the slope. Nothing. Then, movement. A glint. A tank turret sliding into view between the trees. Then another. American armor. 3 Shermans, maybe 4. Infantry fanning out ahead, crouched, cautious. They don't know you're here. Not yet. Your officer waits, letting them come closer. You count your shots in your head, run your finger along the bolt, listen to your own breathing. Then, fire. The machine gun cracks to life, and everything shatters. You squeeze the trigger. The rifle kicks. You're aiming at shadows, shapes, flashes between branches. Return fire comes fast. Snapshots, bright muzzle flashes, bullets chewing bark, smacking into the dirt inches from your boots. The tanks fire too. One shell screams overhead. Another hits the ground with a muffled boom, snow erupting in a geyser. You duck instinctively, ears ringing. Someone screams nearby. You don't look, just reload. Another burst from the MG-42 sends 2 Americans diving for cover. You track them. Squeeze. Probably miss. Doesn't matter. You keep firing. Schaefer's shouting something you can't hear. His sleeve is torn. The fog's rolling in again, smoke mixing with mist, turning everything into a gray smear. You fall back, crawling to the second line. Really just a trench someone dug with a helmet in desperation. You land hard, elbows slamming into frozen roots. Your rifle's covered in snow again. You wipe it, curse, chamber another round. The fight continues for what feels like an hour. Maybe longer. Then it stops. Not all at once, but gradually. The shots space out. The shouting fades. The tanks fall back. Maybe repositioning. Maybe just testing. You don't know. But for now, it's quiet. You sit there, soaked in snow and sweat, body buzzing with leftover adrenaline. Someone nearby is crying softly, a young soldier you don't know. His hands shake. You hand him a cigarette. He lights it with a trembling match, exhales, nods once. You glance at your rifle, still intact. At your fingers, still attached. At the treeline, still theirs. Historians often call this the slow unraveling. The German advance stalling. The Americans adjusting. Fuel running low. Morale fraying. The guns still firing, but the hope fading. You can feel it. You're not retreating yet, but you're not advancing either. The whispers start quietly, not from your unit, but from others drifting through the trees like ghosts, medics, messengers, stragglers. Low voices, careful glances. Stories traded between cigarettes and dying fires. Malmedy, a crossroads, an SS column, American prisoners executed. You hear it once and dismiss it as battlefield rumor. Then again, with more detail. Then a third time from a mud-caked soldier with a bandaged shoulder who claims he saw the aftermath himself. His voice is hollow, like someone stepped on his soul. You don't want to believe it. Can't believe it. Not because it's impossible, but because it's too possible. Your unit had nothing to do with it. Your regular Wehrmacht. Just cogs in the machine. But suddenly you're surrounded by stories of men in black uniforms. SS roaming the roads ahead, moving fast, speaking little, leaving behind confusion and something darker in their wake. Schaefer says nothing when he hears it, just polishes his belt buckle harder. Other rumors spread too, that Americans are refusing to surrender now, that they're fighting harder, more desperate, that they're scared not just of defeat, but of what happens if they stop fighting. And so are you. Your lieutenant pulls you aside before the next movement. No insignia changes, no disguised tactics, no SS nonsense. It's a direct order. You nod, but the fact he has to say it, that he even thinks it might be necessary, makes something twist in your gut. Because here's the truth no one says aloud. Even among your own ranks, no one fully trusts the SS. They're on your side, yes, but their presence always tightens the air. They follow different rules, carry different orders, operate with a deadly freedom the rest of you don't have. One soldier jokes, "If you see black coats, aim low." No one laughs. That afternoon, you're sent to secure a road junction near a logging trail. Nothing dramatic, just a frozen mud path where 3 routes meet. You and 7 others dig shallow scrapes behind a ridge, lay a few mines, string some wire. Routine work. But everything feels heavier now, like the forest itself is pressing in. Halfway through, a column approaches from the northeast. Tanks, trucks, motorcycles, all German. But as they pass, you see them. The black uniforms. The Death's Head insignia. Waffen-SS. They don't slow. Don't speak. One tosses an empty fuel can into a ditch like it's trash. You grip your rifle tighter. Later, while repositioning, you and Rudy take cover in an abandoned farmhouse off the road. It smells of mildew and old bread. Dust blankets everything. But someone's been here recently. The upstairs windows broken, glass scattered. In the kitchen, 2 empty American schnapps bottles sit under the stove. You rest for a minute. Rudy breaks the silence. You believe what they're saying about Malmedy. You don't answer immediately. Instead, you watch snow swirl through the broken window. Finally, does it matter? He exhales slowly. Maybe not, but it changes things. It does. Before, there were still lines. Blurred, yes, but surrender meant something. Orders had boundaries. Now the snow feels tainted. That night, they bring in a prisoner. American, young, hands bound, face scraped. Found hiding near a burned-out jeep, trying to dig a foxhole with his helmet. They sit him by the fire, give him water. He drinks greedily, eyes darting. When he sees you, his jaw tenses. You realize why. Your coat, your helmet. He can't tell what you are. Rudy offers him a cigarette. He hesitates, then takes it. They don't interrogate him much, just ask if more Americans are coming. Don't know, he croaks. You study him. Every twitch, every glance. He's scared, but not of you, of something else. And you don't blame him, because you're starting to feel it too. This front is cracked open into something colder, harder, more personal. It's not about tactics anymore, not about bridges or lines on a map. It's about surviving in a place where the rules no longer apply. Historians still debate whether the Malmedy massacre hardened American resistance in the Ardennes, whether it became a moral turning point. But you don't need a history book to recognize fear. You've seen it up close now. That night, you're posted alone on a ridge, back against a tree, rifle across your knees. Nothing but the snow for company. The stars are faint and cold. You think of the American with the cigarette. You think of the prisoner's wide eyes. You think of the SS column rolling past like wolves. And you wonder what comes next. A twig snaps behind you. You spin, rifle up. Schaefer steps from the trees. Jumpy now, he asks. You lower the weapon. Always. He sits beside you, pulls out a crust of bread, offers half. You chew in silence, staring into the dark. You think they'll stop us? You ask. The Americans? The SS? He looks at you, then away. They don't need to. You nod. That's what scares you most. The word retreat never comes. Not in writing, not over the radio, not even in shouted orders passed down the line. But you feel it, a shift in gravity, like the forest itself has begun tilting backward, urging you toward where you came from. It starts quietly. Fewer artillery barges, fewer patrols, fewer trucks bringing supplies forward, more men moving east than west. Some limp, some carry broken equipment instead of weapons. A few walk blank-faced, hollow-eyed, like the trees themselves have started marching home. They call it repositioning, realignment, tactical consolidation. You pack your gear anyway. Your current position is on the edge of a forest near a frozen riverbed. The plan was to reach the Meuse by now. Instead, you're crouched behind logs, hoping the Americans don't decide to push tonight. New orders arrive, coordinates scribbled in pencil, barely legible. Move before dawn, light and quiet. Leave anything you can't carry. Rudy asks, even the machine gun? Schaefer answers, especially the machine gun. You move under cover of fog again, but this time there's no electricity in the air, no sense of momentum, no murmurs about maps or objectives. Just the crunch of boots in snow, the groan of overloaded carts, and the occasional cough from someone who stopped pretending to be healthy 3 days ago. One man pulls a sled loaded with jerry cans. Another drags an ammo crate using a curtain rod as a harness. Ingenuity is the last currency left. And silence. Everyone speaks in half whispers, glancing up often as if the sky itself might punish them for stating the obvious. Don't call this what it is. You pass remnants of another unit. What's left of it, anyway. Half-frozen men huddle around a fire made from fence posts. One waves weakly, his nose black at the edges. You wave back without stopping. Then comes the truck. It's stuck fast, rear tires spinning in mud hidden beneath a thin crust of snow. Two men shout at it. One kicks the bumper. The other just stands there, arms raised to the sky like he's summoning divine intervention. Neither works. You and Schaefer step in without a word. Push. The tires spin. Mud sprays. Your shoulders burn. Then, traction. The truck lurches forward. The driver whoops and doesn't slow down, disappearing around a bend with crates of mortar shells and most of your upper body strength. You're left behind, covered in filth, too tired to swear. Rudy chuckles weakly. At least he didn't stall. You reach the rendezvous point 2 hours later. It's not a base, not a camp, just a patch of flat ground with a half-collapsed tent and a table dragged from some farmhouse. On the table, one map, 2 empty coffee tins, and a car battery powering a dying radio. The officer looks up when you arrive. His eyes are red, his stubble like cracked paint. Dig in, he says. We're stalling them here. You and the others drop your gear, too exhausted to react. So now it's official, or as official as anything gets out here. You're not pushing forward anymore. You're holding, but it still isn't called a retreat. That night, you reinforce the line. Shallow trenches, hasty booby traps, sighting your rifle at headlights flickering on the horizon, pretending they're not American armor. You feel it in your bones. This whole thing is winding down. Not with a collapse, not with a bang, but with a slow, frozen unraveling. Historians would later note that Hitler forbade the word retreat in all Ardennes-related documents. Everything was delayed, redirected, adjusted. But soldiers on the ground, men like you, understood. You don't need orders to recognize a backward march. The next morning, an officer tries to rally the group. He stands on a crate, shouts about the fatherland, about iron will, about sacrifice. His voice cracks halfway through. No one cheers. No one mocks. They just listen, stare, then go back to digging. During a lull in the snow, you spot something strange. An American helmet just visible above a ridge. Not charging, not aiming, just watching. You don't raise your rifle. He doesn't either. It lasts 3 seconds, maybe 4. Then he ducks and disappears. You tell no one. Later, while scavenging for firewood, you find an abandoned German truck half buried in a ditch. Doors open. In the back, boots. Dozens of them. Mismatched. Some too small, some too large. Leftovers from some rushed resupply or looted depot. You take a pair with intact soles. Your right foot has been numb most mornings. Back at camp, Rudy's disassembled his machine gun for the third time today. Keeps me warm, he says. Schaefer carves something into his rifle stock. You glance over. It's a date. December 16th, the offensive's beginning. He hasn't added an end. That night, someone produces a harmonica, plays a tune you half remember from your mother's radio. A lullaby, maybe, or a marching song slowed to something almost gentle. You close your eyes, and you admit it to yourself, just once, in the privacy of your own thoughts. You're retreating, you're losing ground, and somehow, that feels worse than all the bullets in the world. You hear them before you see them. The planes. It starts as a vibration in your boots, like something ancient stirring beneath the frozen earth. Then the hum builds, layered, rising, sharpening into a mechanical scream that fills the entire sky. You look up and there they are. Black specks at first, then shapes, wings, bomb bays, propellers cutting through the air. Dozens, maybe hundreds. American aircraft sweeping in from the west now that the clouds have cleared and the fog has lifted for good. You knew this was coming. The weather had been your shield. Thick snow and low clouds kept them grounded, blinded. But now the skies are open. And so are you. Cover, someone shouts. You dive into a foxhole already half full of melted slush. Mud seeps into your gloves. Your breath fogs the dirt walls around you. Then the first bombs fall. Not here, farther off. A thunderclap. A plume of snow erupts over the horizon. The ground bucks beneath you like it's trying to shrug off the war. Another impact. Closer. Closer still. Not direct hits. Some overshoot, some undershoot. But each one rearranges the landscape enough to make you wonder where safe even begins anymore. You grip your helmet, as if that thin metal might deflect the sky itself. Schaefer lands beside you, cursing through clenched teeth. They're back, he growls. Everywhere. You reply, voice barely audible. When the bombs stop, the fighters come. P-47 Thunderbolts. They swoop low over the treetops, machine guns stitching the earth in precise, lethal bursts. Trucks explode like paper lanterns. Horses bolt into the trees. A group of soldiers scatters from a wrecked staff car only to dive again as another plane screams overhead. You see one peel off, banking hard, diving straight at. No, past you. Its gun shredding a fuel truck 50 meters away. The explosion is deafening. A sharp crack followed by a tower of black smoke. The heat reaches you seconds later, even through your coat. Then silence. The planes are gone as suddenly as they came, already hunting another target. No one fires at them. You don't have the ammunition or the illusion left. This is what air superiority looks like. Historians call the Bulge a ground war. Infantry, armor, frozen mud. But everyone who was here remembers this. The day the sky turned against you. A medic stumbles past, sleeves red, dragging a man with one leg nearly gone. Not from bullets, shrapnel, the kind that doesn't care about rank or nationality. You crawl out and follow the others toward the tree line. Smoke trails hang like torn flags. Trees stand blackened and stripped of bark. The snow is a muddy paste now, littered with gear and ashes. You find Rudy kneeling by what was once a supply sled. It's a charred skeleton now, the tins of beans inside melted into grotesque lumps. He doesn't speak, just stares, jaw clenched. You hand him your canteen. He drinks, spits. Tastes like fuel. You shrug. Everything does now. Word spreads. Another unit has broken off, heading north. Rumors of encirclement. Of command posts going silent. Of orders that never arrive. A lieutenant jokes you should follow the smoke trails. At least they lead somewhere. No one laughs. You march again. Not far, just to another patch of forest that hasn't been bombed yet. You pass a wrecked panther, half buried in snow, its turret twisted backward, hatch open. Someone has scrawled in chalk on the side, "We're coming. Wait here." You keep walking. The next trench is shallow, half frozen, dug by a unit that clearly left in a hurry. You reinforce it with logs, lay out ammunition, check sight lines. But it feels performative, like going through motions because standing still makes the truth harder to ignore. And the sky is still clear, still blue, still deadly. You keep glancing up, waiting for the next wave. Later, a messenger arrives on a bicycle with a flat tire. He hands the officer a folded note. The officer reads it, folds it again, then burns it with a match. "All units hold position," he says. "No retreat." You stare. He cuts you off. "We hold." That night, the wind picks up. The sky clouds over slightly, as if apologizing. But the damage is done. The smoke still hangs in the branches. The frost still burns your fingers. The sound of engines still echoes in your skull hours after they've gone. You write by candlelight. December 28th, planes above us now. Sky belongs to them. No retreat, they say, but I think we already did. The ground is tired. So are we. Rudy saved 1 tin of beans. Shared it without smiling. Schaefer offers you a cigarette before bed. You take it. You both sit in silence, watching frost creep up your rifle barrel like ivy on a gravestone. No one talks about victory anymore. Now it's just about holding the line and hoping the sky stays quiet a little longer tomorrow. Morning comes with a new ritual, burying your maps. Not by order, not for ceremony, just instinct. The cloth is stiff with frost, creased in all the wrong places, marked with arrows that no longer point anywhere meaningful. The front has moved, maybe behind you now, maybe right under your feet. You fold the maps into a square, dig a shallow hole beside a broken fence post, and press them into the earth with your boot. You don't mark the spot. There's nothing to come back to. You're not sure when exactly you understood this offensive had failed. Maybe after Bastogne held. Maybe when the Meuse stayed out of reach. Or maybe in moments like this, when the silence lasts too long and the snow doesn't stop and no one meets your eyes anymore. The village you march through next is a ghost. No gunfire, no tanks, just the smell of old ashes and a single church steeple still standing like an apology. One house has its door wide open. Inside, a pair of gloves on a chair and a mug of something still steaming. You check. Not coffee, just melted snow. You keep walking. It starts snowing again. Fine flakes, constant, the kind that whisper rather than fall. They collect on your helmet, your rifle, your pack. No one brushes them off anymore. Eventually, you're told to stop in a thicket overlooking a ravine. Good place to regroup, they say. High ground. Cover. Trees thick enough to hide from the air. You set up, lay out your gear. Wait. You ask Schaefer what comes next. He shrugs. You ask Rudy if he thinks the war is ending. He just stares at the snow. So you all sit there, breathing in unison, surrounded by branches that seem to lean closer every hour, like the forest itself is listening for a signal you've stopped receiving. Around midday, a captain you've never seen arrives. His boots are polished. His coat is too clean. His voice is clipped, tired. Command is repositioning, he says. Possible withdrawal tonight. Be ready. No details. No coordinates. No pep talk. He's gone in 2 minutes. You look at Schaefer. He nods once. They're pulling us out. Back to Germany? Back to reality. You laugh. Not because it's funny, but because it's the only response left. That evening, while setting up the stove, you find a photograph in the dirt. A girl, maybe 8 or 9, holding a cat. Behind her, a tree in bloom. The corner is torn. No name. No writing. You slip it into your pocket for no reason at all. Around the same time, you notice something else. Soldiers without rifles. Not deserters, supply clerks, cooks, radio operators. All moving the same direction. Away. No one stops them. The officers see it too, but say nothing. There's an unspoken understanding now. This is ending, one way or another. Your last watch is at the ravine's edge, beneath a frozen pine, staring at the sky for flares or planes or signs. It stays dark. The wind cuts through your coat like knives. Your toes might as well belong to someone else. You sip from your canteen, the last of your melted snow. It tastes like pine and old leather. Rudy joins you near midnight. Says nothing for a long time. Then, what do you think happens if we surrender? You shrug. Nothing good. Better than staying? Another shrug. Neither of you says the word, but it's there, pressing at the edges of every thought. Surrender. Historians will argue about when exactly the German soldiers in the Ardennes knew their offensive had failed. Was it after Bastogne? After the fuel ran out? Or was it moments like this, When the silence grew too heavy and the snow never stopped and no one looked you in the eye anymore. You don't know when it started, but you know it's here now. Final orders arrive just before dawn. Fall back through the ravine. Leave equipment if necessary. Destroy radios. Burn papers. Do not engage unless fired upon. Not a retreat, a disappearance. You shoulder your rifle, tighten your pack, check your boots one last time. Then you walk down the slope, past frozen streams and collapsed fences, through patches of forest that were once objectives on a map and now just feel like unmarked graves. You pass a knocked-out panther, turret blown open. Someone has painted a red question mark beside the hole. You stare at it too long, then move on. By midday, you're close to whatever's left of the lines, if they still exist. You haven't seen an officer in hours, just other soldiers, all walking, all quiet, all going the same direction. At one point, you see a man standing perfectly still in the snow, staring west. You ask if he's coming. He shakes his head. Already gone. You don't ask what he means. You just keep walking. Eventually, you see it. A break in the trees, a muddy road, and beyond it, open ground. Behind you is the forest. Ahead is whatever comes next. You step into the clearing and stop. Because there, across the field on the far ridge, are the Americans. Lots of them. Not aiming. Not charging. Just watching. You glance around. No gunfire. No orders. Just this moment. And slowly, one by one, your group lowers their rifles. Some drop them entirely. You reach into your coat and pull out the photo of the girl with the cat. You stare at it for a long time, then let it fall into the snow. You take a deep breath and step forward, toward the Americans, toward the unknown, toward whatever comes next.